Morning, love.
Morning. Almost ready.
You seen the paper?
I checked. Wasn't there.
That paper boy, little bugger. I bet he's hidden it again.
You shouldn't have shouted at him. I told you it wasn't going to help.
Do more than shout if I get my hands on him. Little mongrel.
If the eggs are too soft, I'll put them in the microwave. Christopher, breakie's ready. Christopher? Chris? Chris, no! No! No!
Excuse me. This must be very difficult.
I don't know how much help I can be. My parents knew more about it than I do, and they tried to keep me insulated from it. I mean, I was only 16.
Well, anything you can remember about your sister could end up being very useful.
Sure. Is it true they were tortured? I read in the newspaper
Well,
that
look, we're not exactly sure what happened to them yet. Stuff in the media. A lot of that isn't true. I'm sorry. This way, thanks, ma'am. I'll just go and see where we're at. If you wouldn't mind waiting here a minute.
it's been 30 years. That's another minute.
Good. Okay. Thanks, Sergeant. Yeah.
Deirdre Kincaid's here, Sarge. The murdered girl's sister. Both the parents are dead now.
Plus the dead boy's father. Simon's spoken to his mother and brother in the statement room. They needed some time alone. Sergeant Hatzit's bringing them up.
Hey, how'd they take it?
Stunned. Just about covers it. Still angry.
Yeah, once we get a sense of the dynamic, we need to separate them and go over their statements again.
Great family bloody reunion.
Oh, same tune, Miles. After all these years.
And you still got the same big mouth, just no braces on your teeth.
Hey, that's enough.
Oh, he has no concept of...
Hey, you back off and you calm down.
Everybody stop right there. You are a hair's breadth away from a assault police charge.
Please, Miles, we don't need this again. I'm sorry. You're really sure it's them?
It is definitely their van, Mrs. Dempsey. The number plate isn't there.
Yeah, it's not a given, but it looks
As
like
far as the newspapers are concerned, it is. They say it's Jared and Ella.
We are proceeding on the assumption it is your brother and his fiancée, but until we get
Girlfriend, they weren't engaged.
Jared had asked Ella to marry him. They were off to Byron to meet friends and buy a ring. They were as good as engaged.
Yeah, and Jared was as good as getting his pharmacy diploma until he met your sister and then dropped out.
They fell in love.
Oh, crap! She got him stoned.
Okay, come on, settle down.
He thought he loved everybody.
Hey!
That's enough.
You know, if my brother hadn't met your sister, none of this would have happened.
You're a prick.
All right. If we're going to have even half a chance of getting to the bottom of this, you're going to have to bury these grievances. Let's try and do that, shall we?
You're not keen to bury the hatchet?
In his head, maybe. Stupid thing to say, sitting in homicide, I guess.
Your parents said they last heard from Ella on the night of January the 3rd.
From the roadhouse, yes. I didn't speak to Ella, but I heard the phone call. They'd stopped for a meal.
At the roadhouse just this side of the border.
On the Hume, that's right.
Thing is, their van with the remains, it turned up way south of that roadhouse. So why would they have turned around and headed back this way instead of going on up to Byron Bay like they planned? Any ideas?
No.
When your sister called, was everything okay between her and Jared?
Yeah, they were fine. Well, they hadn't argued. If that's what you're thinking. I mean, they were totally besotted with each other.
He was in lust, not love.
And what makes you think that?
Seeing him, seeing them together.
Were you jealous?
Oh, come on.
What did your mother make of the relationship?
Jared was like his dad, too bright to fall for anything that wasn't real. He really loved that girl.
Mum tries to think the best of everybody. This killed my dad. The not knowing. Grief.
If my late husband had let me, I'd have contacted her parents after the kids disappeared.
Your husband wouldn't let you.
Not after what Ella's parents said about Jared.
What was that?
That he was into drugs. That it must have been something like that.
And your brother had been arrested previously?
Yeah, for her marijuana. Anyway, it was the 70s. Every man and his dog did drugs.
So much for the summer of love.
Their van had been in the bottom of that dam for years. Yabbies picked them clean, time did the rest.
It took a drought to find them.
Right, let's get started. What's our focus on this?
Okay. Starting from scratch, New Year's Day, 1978, Jared Dempsey, 24, and Ella Kincaid, 22, set off from Melbourne to join a hippie community up north. On the evening of January 3rd, Ella calls her folks from this roadhouse, the Rising Sun, just south of the border.
3 days, leisurely trip.
Yeah, the roadhouse is their last contact, last time they're seen. After that, they just disappear. Not even their VW is found until now, in this dam here, south of the roadhouse.
So the big question is, apart from who killed them, why were they heading back to Melbourne?
Anything to suggest a problem between the two kids? Maybe they got into a fight, decided to call it quits and head back?
Doesn't look like it. Apparently they were all over each other.
And they were clearly seen at that roadhouse?
Yes, according to the statements taken by the detective in charge.
A bloke by the name of Spotswood, Detective Inspector.
No, Spotswood, I remember him. He was a good cop. Go on.
Well, of the 13 people in the roadhouse at the time, only 5 were ever tracked down, including the roadhouse's owner and his wife. They gave statements to Spotswood. All remember seeing the couple, but that's all they do remember.
It says here Jared Dempsey was done for possession. Could the disappearance be drug-related?
But the possession bus was full of a bit of weed, not exactly a motive for double murder.
Okay, where to from here?
Do a search, find some witnesses that could be contactable.
It's not likely after 30 years.
Well, if you've got a better idea, Simon, we'd love to hear it. When is the autopsy scheduled?
Happening. Pathology will get on to us when they've got something.
All they currently have is a pile of bones.
Okay, work it out amongst yourselves who attends. Until then, focus on witnesses.
Yeah, I had the place for 40 years. Good times. Sold up a few years ago after the wife died. Moved down here. Want a beer?
No, thanks. Not allowed.
Oh, yeah. You're on duty.
You do remember the night we're talking about, Dusty?
Well, I remember the year afterward. Them ghouls coming through the door asking questions about the poor kids. Like something out of Twilight Zone. Alien abduction was big in those days.
You spoke to Detective Spotswood several times. What did you tell him?
That's a long time ago, fellas. Talked about the youngsters. Oh, he looked happy, had a good feed, sat in a booth, canoodled. Just 2 kids off on an adventure. Now, I remember the girl asked me for change so she could make a phone call, and she done that. They paid for the feed and left.
And that was the last you saw of them?
Yeah.
We're trying to figure out why they would have headed back to Melbourne instead of driving on into New South Wales. You don't remember anything that could help us with that?
Well, for my money, it had something to do with them 2 hitchhikers.
What 2 hitchhikers?
Well, I had told the detective about that. There was these 2 blokes touting for a ride. They were hassling me customers, so I gave them a bum's rush.
Were these guys still there when the young couple left?
Don't know. They weren't inside, I can tell you that. 'Cause I had to threaten to call the cops to get them to leave, you know. Not that they were nasty types or anything, just pushy. And a bit like, what'd you say? Creepy, you know?
The ride they wanted. Where were they headed?
Melbourne, I think.
We've checked all 5 witness statements from the Roadhouse, Sarge. Nothing about 2 hitchhikers in any of them.
You sure this Dusty Beckinsale hasn't made a mistake? It was 30 years ago.
Swears he's right.
He reckons he even gave Detective Spotswood a description of the guys.
No luck so far with tracing anyone else who was in the Roadhouse that night. Duncan's still on it.
I thought you said the Spotswood was a good cop in his day, Sarge.
He was top operator. There was a nightclub bombing mid-70s. Big case, 4 people died. Spotswood solved it and made his career.
He's retired now.
20 years ago, medical reasons, if I recall. He was an exemplary detective.
It looks like he wasn't quite so exemplary on this one.
We don't know that, do we? Jennifer, you and Duncan go and talk to Spotswood, get his version of events. We need to get this absolutely clear.
Mr. Spotswood? Excuse us.
We're police. We're looking for Christopher Spotswood.
It's all right, Jane.
What on earth do you think you're doing?
Ma'am, we need to speak to ex-Inspector Spotswood.
Well, that's not going to happen. Leave.
With respect, ma'am.
With respect, Freeman, that's what we're doing here. Paying our respects. Christopher Spotswood is dead.
They did nothing wrong, Bernice.
Try telling Judy Spotswood that. They came in uninvited, waving their IDs, acting like they owned the place.
They were doing their job.
The day after a man's death.
They didn't know he was dead. I didn't even know he was dead. We'd heard nothing about it around here. How does something like that happen?
The divisional detective who attended the scene realised who it was. He showed a bit of consideration. It was clearly a suicide, so he called me. I shut it down and got in the coroner straight away.
You did?
Well, what was I supposed to do? Judy didn't want him to be remembered like that.
It is standard procedure, Bernice. It should have come to us.
And you've never sidestepped procedure.
That happened 2 days ago, is that right?
Yep. They're awaiting release of the body before they can organise a funeral. It's a mess. Judy's a mess.
Do they know why he did it?
Out of the blue. I've requested the scene notes from the on-call detective who attended.
I'm sorry. You knew him well, didn't you?
Back when I started out, he helped steer me through some pretty tough times.
A mentor?
Yeah. And eventually a close friend, him and Judy. But not until after he retired. That was a shock too.
When was that? 87, 88?
He just tossed it in. I was almost as upset then. So what was it Mapplethorpe and Freeman wanted?
This young hippie couple who was Spotswood's case. There's a discrepancy between the statement notes he took and the recollections of one of the witnesses.
What sort of discrepancy?
The owner of the roadhouse where the kids were last seen remembers 2 hitchhikers, and there's no mention of them in any of Spotswood's paperwork.
Well, it was 30 years ago, Stanley. Maybe the man's mistaken.
Mapplethorpe and Freeman aren't so sure.
Both were tortured before they were killed. Looks like 2 assailants, doesn't it?
Why do you say that?
Angles of impact. It appears that one attacker was left-handed, the other one was right-handed. The male received stabbings on the legs, the arms, and high up here on the back. A total at least 27 times.
At least?
Yes, and the other penetrative wounds that didn't strike bone. Chops, slices, severings.
The weapon?
Yeah, it'd be a very sharp, thin, pliable knife, like a fencing knife. It sometimes deflected off bone, made marks like this one here on the right scapula. Deliberate. Meant to cause extreme pain, not to kill.
Torture?
It wouldn't have been over quickly. The male's death was eventually due to his throat being cut. Vicious. So hard you can see a mark on the front of the vertebrae here. The female was also tortured. 19 verifiable stab wounds. Damage to the bones of the hand suggested that she was pinned down by 2 broader bladed knives. Pinned down and probably raped before she was killed. She was stabbed through the right eye. There's another nick here on the orbital socket. Here, there be monsters. Always hoped I'd never see anything like this again.
What do you mean again?
Well, there are other cases, other bodies. Exposed bone, flaps of skin, the soles of the feet cut open, Achilles severed so they couldn't run, eyes cut out like hers, skull smashed. Variety is a key signature apart from the left-hand, right-hand thing. There's one absolutely consistent detail. Their noses, sliced off.
Jesus.
Yes, you can see these nicks here around the nasal cavity. It was about smell. He was very focused on smell.
He?
Yes. Except I've always believed there were two assailants, not just one. I know the identity of one of the killers in this case. I'd stake my super on it.
Take a look at the photographs again. Study them.
Mate, I got trouble finding these in me fridge. This bloke's older than the one I remember.
Try and think back. Was that man in your roadhouse the same day Jared Dempsey and Ella Kincaid disappeared?
Same eyes. You know, like I told you. Creepy. No, I couldn't swear to it in good conscience. No, I'm sorry.
Anton Marley.
Life in prison, never to be released.
The highway butcher. Who comes up with these phrases?
So what leads us to him?
The wounds are identical to those on later victims.
You dealt with the later cases?
Some of them. It was my second year on the job when Marley's victims started coming through. Took 7 more years to catch the bastard.
Well, the Marley murders were solved in '87. That's 10 years after these two people disappeared, right?
Yeah, in late 1987, Marley murdered 2 teenage girls that led to his arrest.
All these other victims predated the teenage girls, going back 7 years.
Yeah, which leaves a 3-year window between Marley's first known victim back to this couple.
So why are we so sure that the other murders and this one are connected?
Their remains. They're compelling evidence, ma'am.
If Marley was travelling south and he was at that roadhouse, these 2 kids could have been his first victims.
It wasn't just him.
There was always speculation Marley had an accomplice. He never gave him up.
2 killers, then?
2 hitchhikers?
Marley always claimed that the left-hand, right-hand thing was him, that he was ambidextrous. But I never believed he acted alone. You need to find his partner.
So you now have Marley tagged with this other person?
We're not absolutely certain of that, ma'am. The roadhouse owner, Dusty Beaconsdale, did pick out Marley's photograph, but it wasn't exactly a definitive ID.
Well, do you have a description of the second man?
Dusty Beaconsdale is working with the facial recognition unit now, ma'am, but still 30 years.
You need to interview Marley.
A request has already been put in with the Office of Corrections.
I think there is another avenue of inquiry that we need to pursue, Senior Sergeant. I'm sorry, Stanley, you were right. I should not have interfered when Christopher's suicide was reported. I've been given the notes from the scene. There was a newspaper on his desk when he shot himself. Open at the article about Jared Dempsey and Ella Kincaid. I'm so sorry to call on you unannounced like this, Judy.
You're always welcome, Bernice.
We need to talk to you about one of your husband's investigations, Mrs. Spotswood.
Christopher was involved in a lot of investigations.
This one may stand out. It remains unsolved. 1978. A young couple disappeared driving to Byron Bay.
Do you remember the case? Chris may have mentioned it.
No, I don't recall.
Christopher retired just after Anton Marley, the serial killer, was arrested, is that right?
Yes, but he had nothing to do with the Marley case.
And the case had nothing to do with your husband's retirement?
No. Why are you asking these questions? Did Chris do something wrong?
Please, Jude, just try and bear with us.
After your husband retired, Mrs. Spotswood, did you notice anything different about him?
I think it's time you told me what this is about.
The bodies of that young couple were found a few days ago.
We believe the deaths are connected to Anton Marley.
Is it possible that there could have been some tangible connection between Marley and Christopher?
Is it possible your husband knew Anton Marley before he was arrested?
I think you'd better leave.
Jude, when he died, he'd just read the story about those kids in the newspaper.
I can't help you. If you think there's some sort of connection, you should be asking Marley about it, shouldn't you?
Beautiful day.
I take it we don't uncuff him.
I take it you want to celebrate your next birthday.
Okay, you guys can leave as well.
He's still our prisoner. And anyway, he's used to us.
Like a bad smell, eh, Colin? You never quite stop noticing it. Is this a formal interview?
Would you like it to be?
I wasn't asking you.
Sure. We'll turn on the recording equipment, caution you.
And you'll get nothing. Better to keep it casual, much more relaxed.
Fine. I'll order tea and scones.
Wit. And a change of perspective. What did I do to deserve it?
We think you've been selling us short, Mum. We think that you have a couple other murders up your sleeve.
Is that right?
Yeah. So we can arrange another change of perspective if you like.
Yes. A bribe? You disappoint me.
A stick, mate. Not a carrot.
We were thinking more along the lines of a spell in solitary.
Not much of a stick. I enjoy my own company. I'm the only person who really understands me.
That'd be right.
So why don't you just ask me what you need to ask me, then we can all get on with our lives. I have 8. Did you know? 8 concurrent life sentences. One more, be a breeze. So hey, why not cooperate? It's fine, Colin. Testing reflexes. Very good. Well, you never know your luck. Ask away. Yes. He wept, begged. She struggled like a little feral animal. Her smell, her fear. Gutsy, but I used very sharp knives and barbed wire, if I recall.
You're confessing to their murder?
Sure, why not?
You admit to murdering Jared Dempsey and Ella Kincaid?
I thought I just said that. Is that all?
No. What about your accomplice?
Ah, that again.
Left hand, right hand?
Dear Mum, want to see me write 2 different letters, one with each hand at the same time?
We're not into party tricks.
Colin is. He's seen me do it, haven't you, Colin?
He's a freak.
I'm a freak.
We know you had an accomplice.
Do you? Does he exist? If so, where is he? And is he still killing? That's what's behind this, isn't it?
Both the physical evidence and your psych assessment suggests that you had an accomplice in all the murders. Maybe a sexual partner. What are you, bisexual as well as ambidextrous, are you?
All the murders. Do you have them all, do you?
Well, that'll be the next question.
You know, I'd really appreciate it if you didn't breathe on me. So, 2 questions. A, my supposed accomplice, and B, other victims. Let's start with B, shall we?
Why not?
How's your maths, detectives? Numbers in series.
Yeah, sure. If Jared and Ella were the first, there's a gap of 3 years. Now, we reckon there's at least 2 other events missing from the sequence as a whole, maybe others even earlier.
So you want to confirm any of this for us?
No. Unless you'd like to agree to a mutual accommodation.
Quid pro quo.
Your friend likes his pop culture. You give me something, I'll give you something. Quid pro quo.
Give you something.
Something you already have. Memory lane. A trip down.
We'd have to ask our boss about that.
Understandable. Probably falls into the category of supplying pornography, but what's pornographic is so subjective, don't you think?
Well, in the meantime, why don't you give us a show of good faith and tell us something we don't know?
Fair enough. Sounds reasonable.
Well?
Why don't you speak to Christopher Spotswood about my supposed accomplice?
You know Christopher Spotswood.
Ah, detective. Quid pro quo.
Do not even begin to consider that Christopher Spotswood might have been his accomplice.
But why would Marley pull his name out of the air like that?
It's about who this is, the second hitchhiker, Marley's accomplice. He exists. And Marley is saying that Spotswood is somehow the key to finding out who it is.
Is this a good likeness?
No, I wouldn't hang my hat on it. It's a long time ago, and this is a projection of what he might look like now.
So we've run the face?
No matches.
Yeah, even with the tattoo. And the spider tat's not common.
So we're back to Marley then. Memory lane. He wants to see crime scene photographs of his victims. To preen, relive the moments.
Dead women, dead children. He wants sick images of rotting corpses and open wounds.
Well, we've got them. We've got the crime scene photos of the ones he went down for. We show him those, and maybe he'll give us something then on A and B.
No, I will not allow that creature any gratification whatsoever.
I agree. You need to keep at him.
What about Spotswood's personal notes?
His diary.
His daybook, his personal notebook. Can we access those?
No harm in asking. Well, maybe we need a warrant. Judy Spotswood wasn't exactly happy about our last visit.
You're right. You stay on Marley. I'll come with you.
Caution. Highly commendable. Cigarette?
You're doing well enough to get the coffee.
Show and tell. Show me the pictures you've got in that file, and I promise I'll say yes or no to all of them.
Fair enough.
What is this?
Missing persons. From the 2 years that we haven't got bodies with your signatures all over them. Any faces ring a bell?
I'm not interested in faces. I was thinking of something more forensic, if you get my meaning.
Yeah, of course he was.
Colin's right. You're a freak.
Am I? Define freak. A freak is something out of the ordinary, yes. Something significantly unusual. Like a detective in a designer suit, a man who overcompensates for his own perceived inferiority by slipping on a cloak of slick, neat shirt, sharp shoes, a dash of cologne, to hide the stink of his own fear. A man who sits and smiles and pretends nothing penetrates. When really, oh my God, it cuts him to the bone, through the slick, to the bloody pink bone. That's a freak. determined not to scream at all the veiled insults or the hidden contempt. God, I'd love to have worked on you. Yeah, those that fight back, grit their teeth, they're the ones that scream loudest in the end. You sure about that cigarette?
We don't have anything more graphic for you. It's your own fault. You hid them too well.
Come on, be honest with me. What you really want in exchange is the name of an accomplice, right?
We want to know how many more.
A or B. You're gonna have to do better than that.
Ma'am, Sarge, we may have something. We've been going through Spotswood's personal notes.
We figured if he deliberately removed these two men from the case, he must have had a pre-existing reason to do it. So we went back even further.
To 1975, the Westwood Club bombing, and he mentions a source.
A source?
Spotswood had an informant on the bombing. That's how he cracked it. In here, he makes a diary note of a meeting with W. Could be the break, 3 exclamation marks.
This is a couple of years before Jared and Ella's disappearance.
From then on, over the next few years, W turns up regularly in his notebooks. He becomes a regular informant to Spotswood.
Then here, just after Jared and Ella's disappearance...
Met W and M. Put it to bed. Mr. Marley, who is W?
At last, a decent question. What's the answer worth?
How about just not getting your head kicked in?
W.
The answer, my friend, like the check, is in the mail.
Man, if they are right, if this bloke with the smarter tattoo was W and he was an informant of Spotswood's, it explains why he and Marley have both been erased from the case notes. It explains everything. Spotswood was promoted on the back of solving the Westwood bombing case.
No, Stanley, I cannot believe that he would let someone get away with murder just for the sake of his own career.
Marley is protecting his partner. Maybe your friend Judy is protecting hers.
Christopher never said anything to me about that investigation into the bombing.
I'm sorry, Judy, I don't believe that. How was the bombing linked to the Dempsey-Kincaid disappearance? Why did Christopher resign? Who was W, Judy? Look, Jude, we believe there are at least 2 more families out there who still don't know what happened to their loved ones. At least 2 more unsolved murders. Del, Chris is gone. Do you really believe he'd want you to keep his secret now just to protect his reputation?
He spent years beating himself up about it, keeping it secret. He was so ashamed. Wesley. W was an informant. Wesley. He gave Chris crucial information about that club that got bombed, and Chris solved the case. Wesley was a reliable informant. But then he turned up at that roadhouse. The owner described him to Chris.
The tattoo.
A spider. Here. Wesley convinced Chris that he had nothing to do with those young people disappearing.
Not hard. They were heading north. Wesley was heading south.
Chris interrogated his friend too. The friend was convincing, pleasant. Christopher believed him.
So he eliminated them both from the witness statements.
Yes. Wesley and Anton Marley. When the highway butcher murders came to light, Chris was devastated. He resigned, called it early retirement. He went after Wesley, but he disappeared.
Jude, we need to find this man. Did Chris ever locate him?
No, he never did. One mistake, just one mistake.
Oh, my friend.
He gave a free pass to a serial killer.
He trusted a useful informant.
Same result.
Not fair. New smell in here and I'm forced to linger. Tough. I'm hungry.
Food comes under the definition of quid pro quo.
Be warned, I'm litigious. I'll sue.
W stands for Wesley. We know all about him now.
Congratulations. What's his surname?
We know he was your accomplice.
Was he left-handed or right-handed?
We also know that he was a police informant.
Where does he live? Tall, short? What is his surname? You don't know a thing.
You small bastard.
Still, 4 points for trying. So? Mine. Mine. Gritted his teeth. Begged. Smelled nice, but musk with citrus overtones. Play your cards right, I'll tell you where they're buried.
Where is Wesley? And what is his surname?
I've already told you. The answer's in the mail.
Maybe he means it literally. The answer's in the mail. These guys get fan mail all the time.
Good thought. He's allowed to write too.
Vetted, probably. We can ask.
Okay, so who does he write to? Thanks. Can you email that list to us as soon as you have it? Great.
Tell you how long it'll take?
It's on file. 10 minutes.
Probably be a big list. I'll call Karen. Get some uniforms up here to help us follow up. Check the addresses.
A woman called Wanda. Marley wrote to her regularly until about 5 years ago, and then he stopped suddenly. We checked the address. It was a one-bedroom apartment. There was never a Wanda living there.
But we did speak to the estate agents. The tenant of record for that period in time was a Wesley Stephen Simpson. Good work.
Tell me he left a forwarding address.
No, sorry, ma'am. He just dropped off the map. No driver's license, nothing.
But maybe we've got all we need. Maybe now we can squeeze Marley for some more points.
Wesley Stephen Simpson. Why did you stop writing to him?
I'm sure you'll work it out eventually.
No brownie points this time. What about a new address? Maybe you're still right. But to a different name.
I'm sure your friends are already checking that out too. But fair enough. Brownie points. Eeny, meeny, miny, mo. Here, April 1979. Norwegian. Very tasty. Wesley enjoyed it too.
Hey, easy. Easy, Daddy. He's litigious, remember?
Where's Wesley Simpson now? What, he helped you kill all your victims. He shares in the fun and you do the time. Is that fair?
He left you to do jail by yourself. You owe him nothing.
No, it's a matter of personal integrity.
What about personal comfort? Quid pro quo. Your 8 concurrent lives could be made a whole lot easier, you know.
Double bonus points. Her name's Gail. Drama student. Should have gone far. She did a nice line in Screaming back in '79. And the extra special super duper bonus points. Give me a piece of paper. I've had my fun. I'll give you an address.
Police, open up.
Police, Detective Senior Sergeant Stanley Wolfe, Superintendent Bernice Waverley.
We have a warrant for the arrest of Wesley Stephen Simpson.
What? What for? No, there must be some mistake. I'm one of his home care workers. He's been like this for 5 years. Massive stroke. He couldn't murder anybody.
Or be punished for it.
He's being punished. Isn't he? He's been locked away already for 5 years.
You know, Marley, you think you're special, but you're not. You see, I wear this suit because I like it. I decide what the world sees. I have a choice. You don't. Every day, you're the same sad, empty monster. Yeah. Nothing special. Nothing memorable. You're pathetic.
Oh, yeah, and I got your file out the other day. I had to blow all the dust off it. You're not famous. You've been forgotten.